Hi there and welcome back to your mats. Today we are going to look at bridge pose. So I thought this was a really good one to look at actually, because a lot of people say that they experience discomfort whilst doing bridge raises or bridge poses in yoga. So this is probably a really awesome one to break down, just to get over the alignments and just make sure that you're switching on the correct muscles and performing it correctly. So I'm going to show you by having my legs bent, soles of the feet to the floor. And I'm just going to lower down to the ground. So I'm just going to show you a few examples of bridge pose that I see that's probably going to make your back feel a bit ugh. So one of those is by coming into like this sort of flared rib, duck bum sort of lifting up without any sort of engagement or core. Now what's going to happen here is you're just going to feel that in your lower back muscles because you're not really supporting your spine. It's hard to engage the core. So what I want you to do is when you come up into your bridge pose, really take a moment to set your position up first. So you're trying to pull the ribs down towards the hips, pressing your lower back down into the ground. So we're kind of in a much of a neutral spine as we possibly can be, into that posterior pelvic tilt, and we're going to try and maintain that as we come up. So from here you're going to keep that core switched on, press the feet down into the ground, lift up. Whenever I'm teaching bridge pose, I always cue squeeze the glutes. It's just the way that I've been taught and it makes sense. The glutes help support the spine. We want the spine to be supported in this position. And by having the hips towards the, ribs towards the hips, it means that we're using the center of our body as well, our core, to keep us nice and strong. Now another thing that I see when people come up into bridge pose, they come up and like push their belly up. So bridge pose, it doesn't really matter how high you're coming up. As long as you're engaging the correct muscles, you're coming into the correct form. By pressing your belly up towards the sky, again, it's going to be really hard to engage the muscles that you need. So switch your core on, try and pull the belly button in towards the spine so this whole center unit is nice and strong. When it comes to the knees, if you're coming up in bridge pose and you feel like a really horrible pulling sensation across the front of the knees, lower yourself down, walk the feet a little bit further away, and then come back up. Now because we're trying to build strength in the core, open through the front line of the body, work the glutes, try not to use your hands to press down into the ground. So always have it with your palms facing up. Remember, tailbone tucked, core switched on. Press the feet into the ground, lift up. Now there's a few variations that you can do that will just fire your bridge up another level. So one of those is by grabbing a yoga block and pressing it between your thighs. When you have a block between your thighs, I want you to hug it in, squeeze it in, and you'll just notice a little bit more muscle engagement, maybe in the hips, the glutes, the inner thigh muscles. Also helps activate those deep abdominal muscles. Another thing that you can do is maybe work where those arms are. When you come into that bridge pose, maybe see if you can take your arms over your head. Get a little bit more opening into the chest. This is one. Just be mindful that you don't start flaring the rib cage. Core is super strong. Another one that you could do is interlock your fingers underneath you, pull your knuckles towards the ground, sort of roll up onto your shoulders a little bit more, and then try and press your pinky fingers down towards the ground. Now depending on your shoulder mobility, your hands might be off the floor, but just get that sensation of pressing the hands down towards the ground to get that opening into the shoulders. Perfect. Now if you come up into bridge pose and you're just finding it, I don't know, quite hard to keep that engagement of the core, or maybe you just want a little bit more of a passive stretch, not such an active one, you can use your block to help here. So you're going to lift yourself up and you're going to take the block and you want to place it underneath the sacrum. So the pelvis is attached to the sacrum, so this just adds a little bit of added support, and you just got to lower yourself down on top. Although we're using the block, try not to just allow the body kind of to collapse here. It's still the same cues. Still engaging the core, squeezing the glutes, pressing the feet down into the ground. You can still maybe take your arms over your head, get that opening across the front line of the body. Another thing that you can do here, which is what I really like to do when I've got tight hips, or I feel like I really need to stretch through the frontal line of my body, is by bringing one knee into the chest. Either interlock your fingers behind the back of the knee or the front of the shin, and firm the knee into the body. Now you can either stay here, keeping that left knee pointing up towards the sky, firming the foot down, or you can send the leg out. And I just find this is a really nice way of opening through the straight legs hip, getting a little bit more opening than I would in just say a standard bridge pose. So you could do that a few times on each side, maybe hold for like 8 to 10 breaths, just get that really juicy stretch going. And then you can switch sides. The key things that I want you to take away from bridge, as always with all poses, do not get hooked up on how high you're coming off the floor. When we focus on coming into those really impressive poses for the look of Instagram or whatever it might be, we kind of jeopardize form, and we always want to make sure that we're doing the exercises correctly so that we're avoiding injury, but also engaging the correct muscles and therefore getting that good stretch and also building strength. So use the props. If you find it hard to get that core engagement, then just squeeze a block between your thighs. And there, just keep the whole center unit of your core fired up when you're in that position. If you want more of a passive stretch, if you feel like you really need to open and you've been in a forward flexion position most of the day, that stretch, that passive stretch with the yoga block is the perfect one for you to do. So give it a go and let me know how you get on.
Chingity ching, it's Dominic the donkey.